intercontinental university. From my vantage point, ladies and gentlemen, a university that will be housed in Africa and Nigeria and under the aegis of the African World Network activity, but particularly to inculcate into African American and other white American and Caucasian youth about international affairs. Women, we are not enough in that area. Non-profit management, public health, international diplomacy, international business management, international economics, and so on and so forth. This university would anchor, therefore, on the rubric of international leadership for tomorrow, whereby the international cultures of different parts of the world would be discussed, studied, the wealth of the environment of different parts of the world would be analyzed, their problem would be analyzed, and then solutions preferred that would suit particular continents and so on and so forth. There could be a matter of exchanging. If we have gold, diamond, and other people have a lot of cash, bring the money, take the diamond, but we use that money to continue to train new leadership who would understand that, you know, an intergenerational development has taken place. Most countries are now free. They are not colonized anymore, and they should be able to make decisions that will help themselves, but at the same time help other countries. So, given all that, I just want members to repeat for the record, very important thing that you understand, if you did not understand when the assignment was given, now that you understand, could you recapture, if you will, the philosophy of this university? Two, how would this university be funded from your perspective? We talked last time about various means and so on. So I just want 2 or 3 members of the group to take a bite on if they understood philosophy now and the how this university will be funded, and what would be your unexpected role as you grow to become in leadership tomorrow. What would you do to help the cause of this university? Anybody can start. One.
Good evening, class. I had the opportunity to be the co-chair of this university, and really the purpose of this university is to put a real solid education into the minds of Africans and African Americans and just people of the African diaspora all around the world, as well as those of other minority groups and oppressed and marginalized groups throughout the globe. This country will teach us how to use resources, how to use our economic power, how to come together, and how to really fight against the circumstances which we have unfortunately been put into as the cause of caused by colonialism and imperialism and the global north coming to the global south.
Thank you very much. Peter Wilkins and then Clausen, how would this university, what are the various ways that you think this university would be funded, given that we are promoting international affairs, we are promoting international culture? Yes, African American culture, but at the same time relating with Chinese, relating with Caucasian culture, and therefore treating us, ourselves, as equal. We're not more colonized, but just promoting the international understanding. What are the mechanisms to finance this university, please?
A project of this undertaking, without doubt, will require a lot of money. And so the sources that we look to, they have to be able to have the capacity to give us that money. Some of those sources that we are looking to are foundations, multinational corporations. We're also looking towards building an endowment with that money that we get to help fund and create a sustainable source of finance for the university. We'll also be going to private donors. And anyone else I'm missing, sir?
Yeah, I was going to say private business.
Okay, private businesses, okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Prestigious African American law firms, also see what's kind of
all the private. Mr. William, I want to ask so that I don't leave your friend is videotaping. What are the ways you think that this university can be funded to maintain its sustainability, that is to achieve the goals of the dreamers, like all of you and myself together, under the African World Network?
Like you mentioned before, let's explain the stock market.
Thank you very much.
Also, different foundations, other,
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been my pleasure working with all of you on on this project. I believe this is a viable project. I believe all of you are going to be leaders of tomorrow. I believe that you'll be called individually, and when you finish today, I need your phone number, your email, and the permanent, in that list. I'll file it somewhere. You never can tell where you'll be. You may be, you'll be given a call. Someday, some you never know. And so it's my pleasure working with you and trying to envisage this program at this university. And I hope that you've learned lessons in doing, in studying political development of third world countries or personal developing state. At this time, I want to bring to record Ms. Tinson Nicole, for you to hear from her. She is a student of the Political Science program graduating, and she sat on your seat with me on over 6 classes also, like as well as you, Clinton, and so on and so forth. I want her to give me, for the record, what does that mean for her? And in terms of democratization, she did a paper on election management in Africa, and then when she went to Washington, she used that knowledge. Let her also tell us about that and the overarching experience that she had observed here today. What does that mean to her? Ms. Nicole Tinson, welcome.
Thank you. First and foremost, thank you, Dr. Okorn, for having me in class, for allowing me to sit in and listen to your presentations. As Dr. Okorn stated, while I was a student in the third World Development course, we also had to study democratization within my countries in Africa. And I took a special emphasis on looking at election monitoring. So Laquan, you spoke about it in your presentation, and just speak about the importance of that. So when we look at the continent of Africa and how it emerged from being the quote-unquote dark continent, in suppressing the colonialism, imperialism, and influence from Western civilization, we know like a lot of countries didn't receive their independence until mid-60s, and some countries are still recently becoming independent. And as they become independent, it's and it goes back to Peyton's point about political instability. I don't think it's anything that can be argued with, because when you're transitioning out of being under control of a country to figuring out which pathway you're going, you're always going to have some type of instability going on until something is, a foundation is set. And you find that through democratization. But within recent times, especially with countries looking to what other countries are doing outside of the continent, you find that the electoral process tends to be tampered with. And that also speaks to Laquan's point. He spoke about that as well. And I think Jason did too, in regards to just people going out to the elections, ballots being tossed out, and people being elected into office that shouldn't be elected into office. And then you have the issue with corruption, with greed, why people are going for these positions in the first place. Gary spoke about Nelson Mandela and his 27-year imprisonment, and how he moved out of that and where South Africa is today. And when you look at the process of election monitoring, you look at the United States impact in that. So we have the Carter Center, which is actually here in the United States. It's in Atlanta. And what that is a delegation of people who go out to different countries that are experiencing political instability or issues within their electoral process, and they monitor it. So it could be a delegation like the people in the class here. You would be trained to go to Nigeria, to go to Cameroon, to go to Gambia and watch the election, watch to ensure that people aren't tossing out ballots, watch to ensure that people aren't voting twice, and that the ballots are also counted correctly. When you think about the certainty of countries trying to truly become a functional country and move out of that point of being a third world country, looking at the democratization process is just absolutely important. So,
Let me ask you a question, Trumphead. You went to Washington, D.C.
yes.
While there, how did the project, election management that you did here, how did it impact any aspect of what you did while you were in Washington, the people you interacted with, and some group discussions that you had?
Absolutely. There was a panel discussion being held on election monitoring at Howard University, and there's a professor, his name is Dr. Greg Carr. He mentioned it, and I was like, well, I've done research on election monitoring and my third world development course, and he was just like really I couldn't find any students, so I ended up sitting on a panel discussing election monitoring alongside with other university officials and professors, and just outside people from other nonprofit organizations. So we discussed election monitoring to that extent. So the knowledge I gained in this class was definitely able to be applied in DC, and also just different conversations I would have with people I network with at different events. So
just keep all of you, your eyes open, and in that book that when they're writing their names and their phone number, the email, please put your name there. Let me say for the record, all of you, by going through this process, you have trained or developed yourself for something that is going to come tomorrow. Election monitoring and election management is not only, although this is a developing country cause, but we have election monitoring problems in America. When elections are coming, people fight. People talk about that when Obama was to be elected, votes were tampered with, charred, days, and in Florida, so all women, people were standing on line for too long, things like that. So for a professional political scientist or a minor, in political science, to have the opportunity to say that this aspect, power is not given to you, power is taken. You have educated yourself, but if you continue to watch through this, understanding the power dynamics, the electoral process, electoral institutions, the laws, role of legislature, executive and judiciary, how they make the democratic process functional, then you will be in a position where you may become a political consultant of your own right after graduate school or after law and so on and so forth. Keep in mind that there are other things that would call your attention. You are not being trained only because, as an American student, but you are being trained as global citizens. So having the opportunity to have this kind of discussion, on election monitoring, democratization in Africa, particularly, is a great opportunity to open up the eyes. What we did here was to quickly summarize what will happen functionally fully on Friday, because we didn't have time then to go and zip into your paper the way I wanted it to. But at the same time, I would like somebody to take over from the president of the Intercontinental University, Ms. Bingham. Let her come back and sit down for 1 minute and let me hear her opinion and her experience before we go. Bingham, somebody help us quickly. We are out of time. 1 minute. Ms. Bingham, just particular, give me and the audience, you are the chair of that Intercontinental University, and how was the philosophy, this philosophical journey, how did you learn from that, both role of president, board of trustee, deans, fundraising? The first time you all sent it to me, I tossed it out away. You brought it almost the same way, but you jockeyed some points and the topic, and so on and so forth. And then finally I changed it to Intercontinental University. Tell me about the experience.
It was definitely a great experience being the chair of such a wonderful assignment. And I think as a whole, we truly gained a lot from this as far as working together and developing a university that may one day exist, maybe not the name created, but in another form. But as far as the different aspects of a university. It was truly a pleasure to learn how you develop a